Hello everyone, welcome back. I've brought my goat willow forest back in again for another pruning. As you can see, it's starting to grow pretty good. Getting some pretty long branches on it now, pretty big leaves as well. Yeah, it's starting to really shoot out in some places, so I'm just going to tidy it up a bit because I don't want it just sending out big huge long branches all over the place. It's starting to shade out as well, some of the top branches and stuff. A lot of branches growing straight up and stuff, so I'm going to work on that. I'm also going to maybe put just a bit of sand on my path because it's so dark under there and the moss is growing really well. You see this rock is practically covered in moss now. I'm just going to put a bit of sand just to brighten up the path a bit. I know it might look a little bit unnatural at the start, but I find once it's washed in a bit, it just gives it a bit more of a naturally look. Well, not so much a naturally look, but the dark path, you can't really see it with just leaving the soil. So I'm going to just put a bit of sand on that. Okay, so the first thing we'll do is we'll start with the trees and then we'll work on the landscape afterwards. So as always, I'm just going to be pruning to outward facing leaves. This tree, you could do with a bit of height, so I'm going to leave some of the upper branches growing up. You can see how even that far up, how big of the branch leaves get. See this one here, it's quite a big leaf there, and it's coming from right back in here on the tree, so we'll take that out if I can get to it. There. And see now how big the leaves do get. So if you want to keep the leaves small, you have to keep it pruned. It's like with a Chinese elm, things like that. I just keep them pruned, and it keeps the leaves and smaller and the foliage tighter. On having these big long branches. And see now this branch is growing off this tree at the back, but it's growing so long and into this tree that you end up then with all bare because the light isn't hitting it, and all the leaves at the end, and they're getting bigger and bigger, so then you end up just cutting it off. So you're better off just keeping it pruned. Plus I think the bigger leaves start taking all the energy, and you can see the small leaves then start to suffer in behind them. So I'm just going to keep them pruned. That's what works for me. Might be different for other people, but that's the way I do it. Okay, so now that tree is nicely pruned up. Try and bring the camera in a little bit closer so you can. The tree's nicely pruned there now. Kind of tight foliage on it. A lot of branch structures on these trees not great. They're just collected trees that I found around the garden, growing in my pots and stuff. This main tree was growing in the top of a wheelie bin. Growing out the top of a wheelie bin that was full of water, and it was like recycling foam and stuff and cardboard, and the lid had blown open and it filled with water, and it was just growing probably 10-12 foot tall or something like that, just as a big long straight stick, but it had a grate and the barry on it, so you can see that because it's so dark. But it's got a great root spread because it was growing on a flat surface on top of the cardboard or whatever it was that it was growing on in the bin. So that's why I took that one, and that's why I started collecting them out of my pots and things, because they seem to grow everywhere here. Like weeds around the country, they grow everywhere. But if you can, they're the type of trees you want to be practicing with, because if they can grow, if they're native to your country and they grow white like weeds, you'll know you'll have no problem growing them, and you can do a lot of work on them as bonsai. And at least if they don't grow or something happens, you've got a source that is there all the time to just go and collect more. I'm working on that front tree, but I think I'll work on this tree first because it's kind of growing into that one, so I can see what I'm doing. A bit of a leaf clumping together there. Normally means, you see there, look, tiny little caterpillar. If you see any leaves that close together, normally means there's a caterpillar in them. These seem to be okay. These normally don't suffer too much with things like that. The only thing it does suffer with is they like to stay quite wet, and the leaves tend to yellow off quite easy if you let them dry out too much. So I try to keep them quite moist if I can. They grow brilliantly from cuttings. You can see that was just a cutting that stuck in, another one here, and you can see that's growing nicely. Again, that's not really branching out yet much, so we'll just give it a little prune and get it start branching out. You can maybe have a little look at some of the branches on these trees now today if I can. Maybe we'll prune a few of them back. Like this one here is stretching out over this other tree, so I'm going to prune it a bit harder. But I don't mind with these because some of these back trees are quite ugly. They're basically just cuttings and stuff that have just been stuck in, and for now they're still quite ugly yet, so I kind of don't mind them competing and this one taking over, because it is kind of like natural that the bigger trees will overshadow the smaller ones. I don't want it to overshadow it so much that it kills it, but if the tree only grows on one side, with it being in a forest, that's okay. It'll always be, it'll never be a tree by itself because it's just not good enough, but as a little forest tree they're okay. So again, I'm just going around taking all the, notice, where's that one going? So that one's kind of crossing over there, so I'll take that one right back. They do lose the leaves in the winter, so you can do a bit of a branch structural work in the winter when you can see what you're looking at. But in the summer they do tend to fill out quite a lot. This branch here is kind of crossing back over towards the trunk, so I'll take that one out. This one back, a bit here, this one I'll take back. So kind of, another branch here is kind of competing with the apex, so I'm going to take that one off. Like that, you don't have to chop them all right back. Like that, you take that branch off this time. The next time you might decide you want to take this branch out. Just do it bit by bit. At least then you've still got something that looks like a tree, rather than just chopping it all back in one go. Okay, so we'll go back to the working on the main tree now. I'm going to try and create a bit of a gap here because it's starting to get quite full. I want to create some gaps in it. See how quickly they grow. I checked, and the last prune I did on this tree was 4 weeks ago, so it doesn't take long for it to start getting overgrown looking again. So I kind of not worried about giving it pruning back hard, because I'm sure in 3 or 4 weeks time I'll have to bring it back in again and do it all again. I seem to have quite a few branches here now. Take this one out, leave that one. Got one coming back, take that one out, and I'll take that one out there. Big branch here coming from the tree back here, and like, just to show you how big the leaves can get in comparison to when you keep it pruned. You can see the difference. So you definitely want to keep these guys pruned as much as you can. Take that one out altogether, make it right back. One here that's coming from the bottom of that tree, we'll get rid of that. I think I need to prune this back one because it's got a lot of branches that are growing forward into the front tree. I'm kind of getting confused which branches from which tree. So we'll prune this one back. These are quite, like I said, these were just cuttings that I put in. They're kind of ugly, but they're just basically, so when you look through the forest, you can see trees at the back, in the background. It's going to take a while before they ever become anything pretty good. You could put them in a pot by themselves and grow them on, and get the branches growing and stuff, and work on them like that. And then when they're good, then put them in. But I just put them at the back there and let them do their thing. If it was a bigger forest, maybe with more space, then maybe that's what I would do. I would grow better trees, get them growing better, and then plant them in together. That's what I did with my elm trees, my little field elms, ones in the kind of in a line. I grew the trees first and got them kind of in some sort of shape before I put them in together. They were kind of all individual trees, whereas these, it was just this one, maybe this one and that one that were individual. The rest were just like growing out of pots and things, and I just stuck them all in together to build the forest. Well, let's have a look. You see, when you look through the forest, you can't really see the trees at the back, but you can see the trunks. But you can see there is some foliage back there, so it's not, I'm not that worried about them not being like really spectacular looking trees, individual trees, as long as they fill out the forest a bit. This one, alright, let's have some growing off the trunk there. We could pick a few of them out. Okay, so that's the trees looking not too bad now. I'm kind of happy with them. We made take off, see, quite a lot of foliage off them. So now we'll just give the landscape a bit of a weeding, cleaning off. Moss, as you can see, is growing pretty good. It's starting to look really natural now. It's attached itself to the wall, it's covering this rock nearly. A little wild boar, he's happy in there. Take him out a minute. Okay, I'll just pause the video for a minute now because it's going to take me a little while to collect all these leaves and stuff. Okay, I'm almost finished with the weeding the landscape now. One thing I've spotted is this plant here. I bought a tiny pot of this one day thinking it would make a nice little ground cover or a little bush in one of my plants, and it has spread over. I think it's in nearly every pot I have now at this stage. I don't know how it spreads from pot to pot, but it does. And if you left this little bit in, which I have done before, neglected a pot with a tree in it for the summer, when I come back, if you left it like this, by the end of the summer you wouldn't even be able to see this pot. It would have covered everything, all the moss. It winds its way into the moss and just spreads over everything, and it's covered pots completely, covered the whole pot, the whole landscape, and all over my bench. It just absolutely covered it. So definitely want to keep my eye on that, make sure that doesn't get out of control. Okay, so I think we're okay to see them back here. I don't mind at the moment, it's not too big, it's alright, it's still staying this small kind of a bush size. I think one day I will put a bit of that miniature thyme that I have, a little bush of that somewhere in here, just to add a bush here and there. Like I said, now the only thing we'll do is just add a little bit of sand. Now, like I said, it'll be a bit white at the moment, but when I water it in, after it's been watered a few times, it kind of blends in, but it just gives it a lighter colour around the soil, and makes so you can actually see the path, because the path is it's so dark under here, you can't really see the path. And I want to just be able to see it just a little bit, so it's not too bright, but just enough that you can actually make out the path. Like that. I won't put it on thick, just a thin coating. Like that. A touch more at the front here just to widen it up. And I don't know if I have any water in there. I don't. I'll go and get some water and we'll give it a water in. Okay, I'll just water that in now. And you'll see it's not going to stay sandy, but it'll just brighten the path up a tiny bit. filled in. So you can see now you can just about make out the path. I'll bring the camera up a little bit higher. You can just about make out the path now in there. It's not too bright that it stands out, but it's enough that you can see it, because all along you couldn't really see it. You see it winding in around there. Okay, so I think that's done. Again for another couple of weeks. We'll put it back on the bench, and we'll probably be bringing it in again in 3 or 4 weeks to give it another little pruning. There's another branch up there we can take out. Yeah, it'll probably be back in again in another few weeks for another pruning, but for now it can go back on the bench. I'll put my little wild boar back up there, watching out. Okay, so I'll put it back. Don't forget to subscribe, guys. Give me the thumbs up and comments, all that kind of stuff helps the channel out, and we will see you on the next one.